Hello, and you're very, very welcome along to another shot the JMac podcast, the very, very first podcast of the year. So I'd like to wish all my listeners and viewers a very happy and prosperous 2023. And today I am joined by former Dublin footballer Brendan McManamon to talk about his illustrious career in the blue and navy for Dublin, and of course St. Jude's as well. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by yorkrich.com. Use the promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on their website. Mr. McManamon, you're my first guest of the year. What could go wrong?
How's it going? Thanks for having me on. Fair play, John.
Good stuff. Good stuff. You got over Christmas, okay?
Yeah, nice and relaxed now. Not nothing too strenuous. Just a few nights out here or there. A bit of horse race in Leopardstown, and then a little bit of family time as well. You know, I have two young kids, so trying to get them all sorted for Christmas and everything else. You know.
Great stuff. And yeah, so have you ran the turkey out of you yet, or is there still a bit of...
It's not start that now this week. It's been taking a while to get going, you know, so bit of luck now. We'll get out and do a bit of running or something tomorrow to start trying to lose a bit of the timber, you know.
Good stuff. Happy days. I suppose, obviously, news in recent days, Brendan, obviously, I know we're kind of getting back into the thick and thrust of it. It's hard to believe the GAA season's upon us once again, Brendan, but I suppose, obviously, news in recent days, Johnny Cooper, obviously, has stepped away from the Dublin panel after an unbelievable innings, obviously, 7 All-Irelands, 11 Leinster titles, and a few All-Stars in between that. So, what a career for Johnny.
Yeah, I mean, unbelievable. It was only when you said there a while ago that he was 33. I actually thought he was a lot older. I thought he was maybe 35, you know, 34, 35 anyway, you know. It just shows you how long he's been around. So he obviously got in there quite early, so it just seems that he's older. But he must have thought it was the right time to go. Massive competition for places there. And, you know, I'd say he gets on very well with the likes of Desi, and now with Gilroy and stuff coming in. I'm sure he had an honest chat with them and, you know, explained maybe his body's starting to break down a little bit, but I certainly thought he had another year or two left, definitely, you know.
Yeah, no, obviously with the additions of Jack McCaffrey and Paul Manley coming back into the fold as well, Brendan. So what did you make of that news? Not bad?
Yeah, listen, if there's no better two blokes to come in and try and mix things up again, you know, so it's all to play for again. Like, the two lads were massively missed. You only have to look at Mannion in the club championships, what he can do, and everyone obviously already knows about Jack. But yeah, with the two of them come back at the same time, I'd say it's a huge lift, even for all the young lads on the team that are only rejoining the panel this year.
Absolutely, Brendan. Absolutely. I suppose overall, I know obviously we're in 2023 now, but what did you make of Dublin's 2022 year as a whole? I suppose, Brendan, obviously coming up just close in an All-Ireland semi-final against Kerry, and they were so close to obviously winning that day. So it just goes to show, down a few men, and you know they're still part of that pack.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, a lot of people wrote about Dublin last year being on the decline and stuff like that. I didn't really see it. Bar one or two lads, they seemed very strong. It was one kick of the ball at the end of the day that knocked them out. I've no doubt they would have went on to win it if they hadn't got knocked out. An unbelievable free by O'Shea to knock them out. You know, was it a free? Was it not a free? So, I mean, they'll be thereabouts next year. They're still in the top 2 or 3 teams in the country. And, you know, I'd have them slightly ahead of everyone out, the two boys coming back.
Absolutely, and I suppose obviously so close in the All-Ireland semi-final, and obviously hope springs eternal. I suppose, like, do you feel like Dublin are definitely going like a strong place, obviously with the boys coming back, and obviously Pat Gilroy coming back in the fold, and obviously Jack McCaffrey was playing in the Dublin South and North games, so you know it's an exciting year ahead once again.
Yeah, I mean, Dublin are doing all the right things. I think Pat Gilroy will steady the ship a little bit there and keep lads on the toes. I'm sure there's a lot of new lads there trying to put their hands up, a few fresh faces, and then, you know, North v South games. I didn't recognise some of the names on it there, but you know, what I've been hearing is that there's a few lads there that are putting their hand up. So, really interesting year for Dublin, and I think you're going to see a lot of new faces, especially in the O'Byrne Cup over the next few weeks.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how it all goes. And I suppose it's great to obviously see a competitive championship once again, obviously with Dublin's domination the last couple of years, Bren. So have you been kind of enjoying like the football championship in, I suppose, the last 2 or 3 years?
Could you say that again?
Oh, sorry, no. It's good that, you know, there's a good competitive kind of football championship again. Obviously, loads of teams kind of coming back into the pack, and obviously Dublin's dominance the last few years. So it's good to just be, I suppose, for everyone to be enjoying football once again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think last year with the sort of the split season, people didn't know what to expect, but I think it went very well. I think people are just dying to get back into it now. It gave, inter-county players more times back with their families and stuff like that. And the club season then was, was a lot easier this year. You weren't, slogging right into October, November. And I think it was done a lot better this, last year. And I think they're going to go ahead of the same plan this year, as far as I know.
Yeah, it's looking like it, Brian. It's looking like, and I suppose obviously touching on to yourself, you have represented St Jude's all your life in the club scene, and obviously the Dublin senior football team as well. So I suppose we can touch on to the Dublin end of things first, Brendan. What did you make of playing for the boys in blue over the years?
Yeah, listen, it was a great honour. Like, I mean, it seems like a long time now. Back when I was playing, I played a little bit of the Dublin Masters this year, which sort of gave me a bit of a taste of it again. But yeah, listen, it was great. Like, it was always something that in our house now that we were sort of, destined to do in one sense. My dad played a little bit of football for Dublin when he was younger. I played a few senior league games for Dublin under 21. So I got on the Dublin minor team, 16s and stuff growing up. So getting the 21s was the next one. I was lucky enough to win an All Ireland under 21 title back in 2000, I think it was. And then, 2008, then I got called up. Pillar Caffrey called me up to the senior panel. So yeah, I had a great few years playing with them. Something I really enjoyed doing. Very proud, obviously. What Kev did then after me. No, great for the family, and yeah, something that I'll have there for the kids and the grandkids.
Yeah, and I suppose, like, what does it mean kind of put on the Dublin jersey? Obviously, I know obviously club means everything to everybody these days, and they're all their life, Brendan. But what did it mean? Like, obviously representing Dublin for your family, your friends, everything goes with it.
Yeah, like, I mean, it's huge. Like, I always remember getting the call years ago, and thinking maybe that I'd missed a chance a little bit, and I thought maybe I was probably ready to go a year or two before I was actually called. But I think I one or two blue stars, and all of a sudden that you're playing the Dubs then on whatever day it was. I think it was New Year's Day back in the day. You played them, and I found myself, playing really well in them games and sort of saying, well, these are the best lads, in the county, and here I am getting, blue stars, and it gave me a bit of confidence then to go out and try and perform against these lads, and then I did essentially, and eventually then getting a call. But yeah, listen, it was huge. Very proud, especially with Jude's. I think we've only 3 or 4 lads that have played championship for Dublin. So to be, along with that list with them other lads was very important, and very proud for the family and for Jude's.
I suppose I always kind of ask former players, Brendan, and obviously playing back in the early noughties for Dublin, and like, it probably was very much a different game to now, what compared to now, Brendan. I suppose what was it like to kind of play back in the early noughties, because like it looked really enjoyable, and now whereas now it looks so professional and everything goes with it. So back then, Brendan, what was it like to play?
Somebody was only asking me this the other day about the difference between the training that they do and what we did. I think around 2007, 8, 9, it was starting to change a little bit. So the sports scientists were starting to come in. There was more lads at training that weren't there before, and there was sort of less emphasis on, laps around the park and stuff like that. It was more to do with them. With sprints and your diet, your physique, even sports psychologists started coming in at that stage as well, which probably weren't seen before 2008, 2007. Do you know what I mean? Maybe they were, but in a smaller capacity. But yeah, I mean, the training was tough. We trained 3-4 days a week. We were doing morning sessions, 6 a.m. I'm sure a lot of that has stopped now, but the lads seem to be in, I don't know, maybe more physical. Their physical peak, I think, is a little bit different now, and the way it was, years ago, you were running laps around the park. Them days be unheard of now. It's all sharp, speed work. You're not doing as much miles, I wouldn't say, as you were back in training back in the day.
I suppose how enjoyable was it to play in that kind of era as well, Brendan? Because we've seen some of the best kind of players to ever play in the likes of the 07s, the 08s, Brendan, and obviously Dublin had so many remarkable players. Obviously Mark Vaughan always kind of just springs to mind with me, such a class act. But Jason Sherlock, obviously one of your heroes too. So remarkable players back then, Brendan.
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously when I was young, looking up to the likes of Jo. I mean, Jo probably was one of the first sort of superstars in Dublin. even lads that were my own age, like the likes of, Alan Brogan, Conor Keaney, these lads. I mean, these lads were all played with all these lads growing up, and then all of a sudden, then they're pushing on early 2000s, and they're making the Dublin senior panel, and then they're making their mark. When I was growing up, it was Charlie Redmond, Vinnie Murphy. These were the guys. Even in my own club, Ben Sheehy, Enda Crennan. That were sort of closer to home. But yeah, they're the guys that get you wanting to put the jersey on, and it was great to be able to do that. Then after that,
definitely. I suppose obviously Dublin, like back in the early noughties, I suppose they were always kind of thereabouts, and obviously the last couple of years they've been so dominant. But maybe you feel maybe were Dublin maybe lacking back in the likes of 07 and 08? I know obviously Leinster titles were kind of coming thick and fast, but maybe to kind of get over that hurdle of winning an All Ireland.
Yeah, I mean, the teams, if I put the 2008 team up against the team now, I wouldn't say there's that much of a difference in terms of talent that was on the pitch. I mean, we had scorers, we had leaders, we had, Kieran Whelan midfield, Shane Ryan, Alan Brogan was in his peak, we had Barry Cow. Lads are really, really good players. We were well managed. I don't know what the likes of what Gavin has brought, and Desi and Pat Gilroy and things like that. They brought a different edge, I suppose, that I thought we had at the time. I mean, I remember when we won Leinster 2008. I mean, we were probably favourites or second favourites to go on and win it that year, and then getting a bit of a rude awakening then by Tyrone, who were probably underdogs, even though they had done the years previous. People thought they were on the decline, and it was actually us that were on the way up. But I was only looking at a team there the other day from a league match in 2008, and you just only have to look at some of the names that were there. Like there was, Dermot Connolly, Paul Flynn, Berno. All these lads were like, 18, 19, 20 coming on. And then you had, Conor Keaney, Jo, David Henry, Mossy Quinn. So we had littered with talent around the pitch. I just think that, I don't know, 2008, we were caught on the hop a little bit. I think it was a very good team, and I think they should have got closer, if I'm honest. But I can't put my finger on exactly what the difference is, you know what I mean, between now and then. But it's a tough one.
So it's back in like the likes of as we're remarking on the 06, 07 away kind of Brendan, and obviously like compared to what it is now, and like I know obviously there's so many lads kind of finished up playing county football, and it seems to be maybe a bit of a chore for a lot of lads these days, maybe if you're not getting to the latter ends of competitions, and it's all very much time consuming. So I suppose like that difference now to back in the day, Brendan, it seems to be fairly evident.
Yeah, like I mean, the commitment is massive. I mean, there's no point in saying that it's not. At the time, you don't really notice it because you're in the little bubble and you sort of just get on with it. Like, and it's enjoyable. You're going to training and you're playing with the best people in the county, and it's brilliant. Everything's there for you. There's food there after the matches. All the prep is done. All the gear is laid out, and you're going out and enjoying yourself. I think what the problem is when you're starting in late December or early January, and you're training 3-4 nights a week, and then you're just continuing all the way through. You're throwing your hat back in with the club then for a few months for club championship, and then you're straight back in with the lads. And back then you were very rarely released, to go back and play with your club, and it was very hard to go back then and try to gel with the lads again and try and get into a club championship setup when you're sort of being out of the loop a little bit, And I mean, I think they manage it a little bit better now. But you've seen players over the last few years, big high-profile players all around the country heading off to Australia and America. Now, I don't blame them in a way. I mean, they're getting offered nice few quid to go off and play football for 8-9 weeks. Is that more beneficial than maybe getting knocked out in the first or second round of a championship in Leinster or Connacht or whatever else? Listen, I don't know what the right answer is. I don't know how to keep them all here, but I certainly don't blame anyone that wants to go off and do that,
Yes, but that's an interesting point regarding lads going traveling. Obviously, you don't get kind of paid maybe to play the GAA, and you obviously kind of see the tweets or the shares or whatever you're having yourself. Like lads, why would they go away now, or why would they nearly do such a thing? And like obviously we see the demands of county football, Brendan. So what would your take beyond, I suppose, maybe the naysayers to a degree?
Yeah, I mean, like I went off, I think it was 2005, I went off to Australia for a year, and it was the best thing I ever did. Played a bit of football over there, played for a team called Michael Cusack's, really hard ground, bit of a social scene to it as well, but decent football, good lads that you'd see playing inter-county, went out there for a year. Went on to play with New South Wales and did like a state tournament over there. It was brilliant. Went off for 10 months and enjoyed it. Came back having, playing football for 3 or 4 months. Training was only once or twice a week. I never did I never did America, but that was another step up then again, and you can see more and more people going. So, that's something for the GAA to look at. I think certainly they should be trying to keep the big lads over here and trying to, I don't know, do you dangle a carrot in front of them and try and say, here, lads, listen, there's an incentive here, or should there be more things they can do for players heading off? Because you can see now that the American leagues are getting better every year, and the money is getting bigger as well. But certainly, I'd recommend any young player, to certainly go off and try it for 2 or 3 months anyway, just to get away for the summer, go to Chicago, go to America, The season will still be there for you next year, especially if you're a club player. And if you get on the inter-county team early, do what Jack McCaffrey or Paul Mannion did. They're a prime example of, I know not everyone can do that, the 2 really talented lads, and probably in other counties they mightn't get a chance. They might be snubbed as like, they're not giving it their all to their county, but they are. The lads will be back in and doing what they always did. They just wanted to go off and travel and try something different. In Jack's case, it might have been work. But there has to be more to it being you're consuming your whole life. You have to be enjoying it. It's great to play for your county and the whole lot, but it can't be at the detriment of being able to go away and enjoying your sort of 20s or early 30s.
Absolutely. I suppose we can remark on a good couple of players there, like Kieran Whelan, Shane Ryan. Obviously, we always remember that midfield duo, Jason Sherlock and Alan Brogan, and I suppose some remarkable players back then. Brendan, what was it like to play with them?
Yeah, really good. I suppose you're looking at these guys and they're like, I don't know how many Leinsters they won, them previous years, but I know they were knocking on the door. I think it's amazing when you look back at some of the teams that were competing with Dublin and beating Dublin, like the likes of Laois and Wexford. All these lads were like, it was a point, 2 points either way in these games, and it's mad when you look at Kieran Whelan, the career he had. I'd say he played for Dublin for 12 or 13 years, I'd imagine. And, he never won an All-Ireland. And there's lads coming in that, 7 or 8 lads that came in in 2011 and won an All-Ireland their first year. And some of them weren't seen again or didn't play for Dublin again. So it's mad how it works, you give it your all, like the likes of Kieran say. And, listen, he still goes down as one of the greatest players to ever play for Dublin, so it's not a bad way to go down, but it's a pity that he never got a medal like that, I
suppose with that documentary that Jason Sherlock done a couple of years ago there on RTE, like it was a great watch, and we seen the fanfare around GAA back in the day. But Brendan probably still is a bit of a fanfare about him. So what was it about him back in the day?
For GAA?
Yeah,
listen, like I remember seeing that actually, and I remember watching Jay on that show. I can't think of what it was, some RTE show back years ago. I think Catherine Thomas was doing it with him. And that sort of injected him into superstardom in Dublin because he was playing for Dublin at the same time, But yeah, listen, it was great. I think my very first match coming on, I think I actually came on for GAA. We played Louth in the first round of Leinster. And I'd say with 25 minutes to go, I came on for GAA, So it was interesting that, grew up. He was one of the lads that we all looked up to, I suppose. Big game player, and to come on for him then as the first sub then on my debut was special.
Yeah, and obviously we've seen Jason Sherlock going in with management teams with Jim Gavin the last couple of years, and he was part of that kind of 5 in a row success, Brendan. So to make that transition from a player to coaching capacity, I know he's gone in with the Westmeath lads this year, Brendan, but it was a nice transition.
Yeah, listen, he's well looked up to in GAA circles, and I'm sure he learned a lot from Jim, and I'm sure Jim learned a lot from him too. Obviously, with all his history playing basketball and soccer, he knows what the story is with different formations, and he was the forwards coach for years with Dublin too. So any team would be glad to have him, just have his experience. Basically, you can't buy that, and you can't buy it in different sports as well. There's not many people that can say that they've got to the top in 2 or 3 different sports. Like in soccer, he played, I think he is junior Irish caps and stuff like that, and then obviously basketball, and then integrating what he's learned then from the 3 different sports into GAA, and I think that's what he brought to Dublin, and that's what he brought to Plunkett's in some sense, and Afina, I suppose, as well. he was always very good in the dressing room for, like, you know, setting up set plays and stuff like that, which I always found interesting.
I suppose obviously when you were kind of part of the Dublin panel back in the likes of the early noughties, Brendan. So how kind of hard nearly was it to kind of maybe get into like the start in 15, because it was such a strong start in 15. Like, did you ever feel, Jesus, this is extremely tough for, like, what was it like back then, I suppose?
Yeah, I suppose from an outside, when you're on the outside looking in, you're looking like that it's like a steady core, and how am I ever going to get a call up? And I suppose you're going out to club games and you're just trying to see what you can do in club games. I mean, you have to stand out in the club matches. You have to stand out in the club championship matches, and ideally in the business end. So, you know, I was playing with Judes back in the day. We were getting to quarterfinals and semi-finals, but it was only started when we started pushing on. And, you know, you might be getting 5 or 6 points from play in a club match, and then people would start to break and say, "Oh, who's this fella?" And then you'd go and do it again in a quarterfinal or a semi-final. And then, as I said earlier on, I think sometimes maybe getting a blue star or something like that, it gives you an opportunity to sort of display your skills then on a, you know what I mean? And that's what happened for me, basically, that I got 2 or 3 of them in a row, and then I was asked to go out and play a match against Dublin, and I think I had a good day that day. And then I think a few weeks later, then Pillar Caffrey asked me would I come up and play. I think it was Carlow in an O'Byrne Cup game, which I had 4 or 5 days notice to come out and play. And then, you know, you're coming on at half time, so 1 minute you're sitting on the couch, and next minute you're, you know, your first match. Now listen, it was against Carlow down in Carlow, but when you're, you know, a week before then, you're not expecting a call, and all of a sudden then you're coming on first at half time in a match, you know, in your first sort of senior inter-county game or whatever.
I suppose obviously in the likes of Croke Park, and we see, like, you know, there's probably no better feeling than being in Croke Park and a warm, hot summer's day, playing some of them Leinster games. Brendan, what was that experience like itself?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a totally different atmosphere, like going from playing in these small little stadiums, say even the likes of Parnell Park, to then making the step up to Croke Park. It's just, the noise is frightening. I always remember, like, it's sort of, you're just in a cauldron, and the first thing I remember I'm thinking is, you know, just don't make a mistake, just don't, you know, give an easy ball. It's sort of, it goes against everything that I try to play like, because I do like taking a bit of a risk, or I do like trying to beat a man or whatever. But you know, you're sort of looking there, there's 50 or 60,000 people, and all your friends and family are there. You're representing the club, you're representing your county, and like, it's amazing how your mind just says the first thing you do is not to make a mistake, you know. So now listen, fairly sharpish then, you don't get too many minutes on the pitch, so you start learning quick. If you're not doing something a bit more than just passing the ball off or chasing a man, you have to be doing something different in order to keep the lads who are looking over your shoulder. And like, as I said earlier on, you know, you were trying to compete for game time with Paddy Andrews, with, you know, Dermot Connolly, Paul Flynn, Alan Brogan, all these guys, you know, and everyone was chomping at the bit to trying to get in. So you can imagine what the A's versus B's matches were like, really, really competitive. And it's great that the team was picked a lot on them games, as opposed to who you were or what you did previously. And I found that you know, no one was looking at what happened in 2006 or 7. It was what you were doing in the A's versus B's matches on the Saturday morning the week before. And a lot of the time the team would pick itself then, and you'd see who was moving well and stuff, you know. So I think that's the fairest way to do it, and not to have anyone, you know, just playing on merit or playing on what they did previously or their name or whoever they are, you know.
I suppose what were them A and B games like, Brendan? Because like, at the best times, obviously Dublin's strength and depth in the last couple of years, and Kerry's and Mayo's, I'd say that's probably the best games you can really play, the in-house games. So what were they like?
Yeah, like, I mean, it's great looking back, because I mean, to be lads boxing the head off each other, you know, really getting stuck in, and you know, referees like, you know, Skiway and Brian Talty and these fellas, and they love it, you know what I mean? They might pretend they didn't see something, and to be lads taking the head off each other in the corner of the pitch, and it was just part of the parcel. But you know what? Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that happens now just as much as it ever did. And I mean, I know there was weeks coming up to All-Ireland final in the last 5-6 years, and I know from talking to lads that I'm still friendly with, and the B team are beating the A team, you know, a week before an All-Ireland final. And I mean, that wasn't heard of at all. Like back in the day, the A team would normally win by 5 or 6 points, but it was always competitive. So it just shows you, like, you know, the week of coming up to a big semi-final or a quarter-final, you know, it's them 5 lads that are trying to get at the sub spot. I mean, they're probably trying harder than anyone else, you know, and that's just the way it is, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have to ask you about Pillar Caffrey as well, Brian. Like, he obviously hasn't really jumped into much kind of inter-county kind of job since maybe finishing up with Dublin. I suppose that's probably a testament to the man, really. But Pillar Caffrey, pay tribute to him.
Yeah, like as far as I know, he's like as far as I know, I think he might be living over in Spain for 6 months of the year or something like that.
Oh, right, okay.
That's the last I heard, that he was over there doing a bit. So listen, he's been involved in football all his life. I'm sure he's glad to sort of have a rest and put the feet up. It takes its toll on you, I suppose, and he gave a lot when he was a selector, even under Tommy Lyons, and he was a selector when I was involved at the even under 20s level. So it's a big commitment, and then obviously helping out with the Fianna over the years and stuff like that as well. So I'm sure he's glad to just put the feet up now and let somebody else take the mantle,
Absolutely. And Jim Gavin, he has very good innings with the Dubs as well. Bren, obviously such a quiet, unassuming man. He's changed the whole landscape of Dublin football in the last couple of years, and I think he, like you're just after saying, he probably has put the feet up, and rightly so, Bren. But need we say more about that man?
Yeah, listen, Jim, and not many people know this, but like Jim was involved in a lot of the under 21 success with Dublin. 2000, 98, 99, he was behind a lot of them teams that did quite well in that age. He was sort of doing things in the background, and it was a bit strange because back in the day they used to have like Tommy Lyons and Pillar would look after the senior team, but they also managed the 21s, which was an odd sort of scenario where you were training with the seniors sometimes, but they got to pick the team at the end of the day. But the likes of Declan Darcy and Jim Gavin and these fellas were actually the trainers of the team that were there week in, week out training. And so, these guys started seeing who was playing. They were going back to Tommy and Pillar and saying who was playing well, because they could see it 3 days a week, the lads are. So people don't even know that. People think Jim Gavin just got, pulled out of the air, and that he was, involved in the 95 team, and then he just got thrown a carrot. But he was sort of instrumental with a lot of them lads' development, going from under 21 up to senior. And it was a natural progression that he was going to be next in line then. And here, listen, the rest is history, as they say.
And can you see any of that kind of being repeated? Because 6 All-Ireland titles in a row, Brendan. I think that's the first time that's been done in so many years. So it really was remarkable stuff looking back.
Yeah, listen, it's only when you sit back and when you're in it, when you see it, and you win 2, you win 3, and you're sort of thinking that, are we getting away from the chasing pack? I don't think it'll be seen again, to be honest with you. I think over the next few years, I really fancy Dublin to win this year. I don't think that you'll see 3 or 4 in a row from any team over the next few years. I think the likes of Kerry, Galway, I think you're going to see teams like Derry and Armagh, teams like that, really step it up. And I think there's going to be an outsider that's going to win the All-Ireland the next 2 or 3 years. I think what happened with Jim was just, it was a once in a lifetime, a little bit like Kilkenny back in the day. What Limerick are doing at the minute, it's a phenomenon. And it's so hard to keep that momentum going, so hard to keep that intensity up all year round, year in, year out. Like Limerick, you look at Limerick now, and, all the attributes that you see in that Dublin team, you see in that Limerick team. But I think they're going through a bit of a change at the minute, Dublin are. So even though I fancy them this year, it's up for grabs over the next few years. And I certainly don't see any team doing that over the next 10 or 20 years.
And obviously, I have to ask about your brother Kevin Bren. What a remarkable servant for Dublin in the last couple of years, and probably only for him some of them All-Ireland titles wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah, listen, Kev is back involved now. He's the sports psychologist with the Dublin seniors at the minute. So he's never really fully left it. So what a legacy he's after leading. He's 10 or 12 years playing, and now he's back involved with the management setup. And listen, he saved us so many times with some of the goals he's got, not just in big games, but some of the assists he's made in big games, and obviously the goals against Kerry and against Mayo. And listen, he'll be in folklore for the rest of his life. Fair play to him.
Yeah, and I suppose obviously when you were kind of watching on and some of the kind of last minute goals and last minute finishes, and I suppose really kind of digging Dublin out of holes in the last couple of years, it must make you proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I only got to play with him for maybe 2 years in inter-county, and I would have loved to have been longer. Like I'm just 5 year gap between us, so I played a lot of club football with him. But listen, just seeing him, I knew he was always going to take it to the next level. And just I watched some of their matches. I was in the Hill actually watching the goal against Kerry in 2011, and listen, like unbelievably proud. People used to always say to me like, are you jealous of all that? Absolutely not. Complete opposite, like what a career he's had, and it's great to be able to sort of play with youth for so many years with him as well. And what he's doing with Dublin is, listen, remarkable. And as I said, hopefully he pushes on now and adds a little bit of experience to the management team, or to, just to get in with lads' heads, younger lads that are trying to, might get a bit nervy about the bigger games in Croke Park, and lads who are 20, 21 that haven't played in big. So he might be able to help these lads. And if he adds, 2 or 3%, then it's worth having him there,
Obviously, news in recent days that he's taken on an IRFU referee performance role, so obviously that'll be very different for him.
Yeah, listen, I don't know the ins and outs of that now, but he seems to be getting a lot of sort of like different avenues, that's stemming off the sports psychologist. He's doing a bit of he's doing like a lecture down in Waterford IT at the minute as well, and he's teaching some sort of sports psychologist down there. So it's listen, it just shows you, like you can use your expertise and bring it into different sports, different lines of business, and business as well, which I think is very important. That could be the next step, So I'm not sure what the story is with the IRFU thing and the referees, but listen, I'm sure he'll have a crack at it as well if he's asked,
Absolutely, Brendan. Obviously, I have to ask about your love for the club. Obviously, St. Jude's. Brendan, what does St. Jude's mean to you?
Yeah, listen, it's huge. Like the club is really big part of my life. Spent 18 years playing as a senior team up there. Still playing a little bit of intermediate football now with the club, trying to. All the young lads are on the way up, and I'm sort of on the way back down. I'm still trying to
impart your knowledge.
Yeah, listen, I'm. That's why I'm sort of hanging around. The legs are starting to go a little bit now, and a few things. But I'm going to try and play another year, playing intermediate. It's a decent level, and it's a lot of young lads, and it's nice to be able to try and give back. You know what I mean, to the club who are so good to me. I have a little cafe up in Jude's as well, so I'm up there all the time. So it's a huge part of my life, both for my family and in business, I suppose, because it's the club are very good to me. To let the cafe go the way it is, and yeah, it's great. A lot of club members go there every day and stuff like that, and it keeps me going over there. 2 or 3 times a week for a bit of training in the gym or whatever else.
And I suppose obviously the success St. Jude's have had over the years, and obviously it is such a competitive Dublin championship, the likes of Kilmacud Crokes and Vincent's, Nafina, Brent. So I suppose competing with them over the years, that's really, you can really tell how you are as a footballer competing against them lads.
Yeah, I mean, years ago Jude's were like, a mid-table Division 1 team, and we get the odd scalp every year and we beat a big team. But I mean, listen, we're so close. I think we've been to 3 out of the last 6 or 7 finals or something like that. A kick of a ball away from winning 2020, I think it was. Crokes bet us, goal, 3 or 4 minutes to go. I thought we deserved it that day. Listen, Crokes are a fantastic team, what they're doing, but that was the one that got away. 2011, we lost to Ballybowden in the final again. Like a kick of a ball, I think there was 2 points in it that day. But yeah, we're knocking on the door. Listen, there's a few changes going on at the minute, but like Jude's are now a semi-final team most years. I know last year we got to the quarter-final, but I'd say we've been to the semi-final. I would say, the previous 8 or 9 years we were in the semi-final, which is in one of the hardest championships in the country to win. And, losing by a point, but beating the likes of Ballymun, beating the likes of Vincent's, and beating them convincingly in some instances. Crokes have got us a few times, last, as I said, 2019, I think they bet us in the final, and again in 2020. But listen, we're knocking on the door still, and as I said, we still have a lot of the older lads in the club that are still like Chris Gucky and the likes of Collie Murphy, Kev. All these lads are probably 34, 35 now, and this year is probably their last year, you know. But then we have some good young lads coming up as well that will, you know, add to them boys. So listen, we won't be a million mile away again this year, you know.
I suppose as a whole, Brendan, like what does it kind of mean to you? Obviously, because obviously when you kind of finish up playing like for Dublin, you can always go back to your club, and I suppose it's where you start and where you finish, Brendan. So overall, I suppose what does it mean to you?
Yeah, listen, the club is everything. I mean, it really is, because at the end of the day, that's who starts you off. That's where all your you know, your pals. Like I grew up on the green when I was 5 or 6 playing football with Judes, and you know, I'm 40 years of age now. I'm still palling around with the lads that I was playing with on the Orwell Green when I was 6 years of age. And you only had to go up to the club on a Saturday morning. We've 800 kids going up to an academy, and all the lads that I would have played football with are there with their 4 and 5 year olds. Train them, whether it's running through ladders or playing, you know, anything, just learn the basic skills. Even have my own young lad Liam up on the academy every Saturday morning, and it's great to see all the coaches or all the fellas that, you know, I would have played with and soldered with back in the day, you know.
Absolutely. And I suppose obviously touching on to the club and what it means to you, like the Dublin Masters this year that you took part in, and obviously it's a great it's really growing legs. Obviously, in Cavan won the Shield final this year, and it was great to see. So that's a competition. Obviously, a lot of counties seem to be taken seriously.
Yeah, like I mean, I got a phone call last year asking me would I play, and I hadn't hit 40 yet, and I was sort of didn't know whether to be pissed off or happy that they thought I was 40 before I was. But listen, to me, it was just getting another chance just to play again, and I really enjoyed it because it was lads that still wanted to put on the Dublin jersey, and you know, it's nice sort of a family days out. You go down to the likes of Laois, or you go down to wherever we went. We played London, we played Laois, we played Donegal, you know, and you're going up, and it's a day out to put on the jersey again. The standard, would you believe, is really, really good. It's a lot better than I thought it would be. You can tell that lads have been playing football all their lives. Bit slower, you can tell that, you know, the pace of the game is a bit different. There's a lot more subs and stuff like that. But the soul and the hand pass and the runs off the shoulder, even the tactics to a certain extent, it's still, you know, it's top notch. And a lot of lads would have played inter-county. We were unlucky enough not to win in the end. We came up against Tyrone, very good team. They won it last year as well, and they still have a few lads, Stevie O'Neill and lads like this, that are still knocking around, and we lost by a point, you know, after extra time. So listen, it was we'll be back to give them a rattle maybe next year again and see, you know. But it's something that I really enjoyed. I didn't think I would. It's a short season, you know. You're training just on a Friday evening, and then you sort of do a round robin, like a league sort of thing. So you might be only playing 7 or 8 matches, but it's all done over a 9 or 10 week period. So I'd certainly recommend anybody who, you know, still was playing club football, and they're anywhere from 40 to 45, 46, if you can still do it, to have a crack at it, because it really is something I enjoyed, and I most definitely will go back this year again for another crack at it, you know.
No GPS trackers on the back of the jerseys, no.
no, yeah, listen, you don't need one of them for me. You can see where I'm running to. So 3 or 4 runs every game, so.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. And I suppose you did come up against Tyrone in that final, and obviously we've seen the videos of Stephen O'Neill rolling back the years, kicking points. Not many lads could probably do these days, Bren. So look, when you're playing against a man like him, that kind of takes its toll at the best times.
Yeah, listen, I mean, like, there you go. Like, the likes of him, like, I mean, the lads are sort of thinking of a plan during the week of how to stop him. And in fairness, we had a lad on him that day, Shane Guckian from Jude's as well, and I thought he did quite well on him. Like Stephen O'Neill get the plaudits. I think he only got a point from play. Now, he was good on the ball some of the stage, but like, he was marshalled enough. But you can see the touches of class that he has there. You know what I mean? And they 3 or 4 other lads that played, you know, that have 3 or 4 All-Irelands as well. So you can tell, you know, with 10 minutes to go, you can tell even going into injury time, you know, lads are very comfortable on the ball. And you can tell they played together for a long period of time, especially the fact that they won it last year as well, you know. But I mean, we had lads like that as well. I mean, we had lads there that had played for Dublin years ago, and, you know, they were a credit to them. We were just unlucky, you know. Another day, a point in extra time. We the man sent off. We got a goal. I got a goal myself, get us back in the game. We were drawing game, then into injury time, and then they get a free with 4 to 5 minutes to go. We end up losing by a point. But I think the best two teams got to the final, and they won't be a million mile away again next year. Them two teams again, Dublin and Tyrone, I'd imagine.
Gaelic Masters. Hopefully, you can go from strength to strength. I suppose, Brian, everyone seems to be getting on the coffee buzz these days. So, where did the coffee and the coffee shop inspiration come from?
Well, the coffee shop is called Deja Brew, and it's a Brazilian coffee. Comes from a Upside Coffee. It's called, is the name of the coffee. So if you're ever down in Templeogue, you must pop in. It's in the car park there, inside St. Jude's GAA club. And yeah, it's open every day. Great sort of focal point for the community. With tables and covers and stuff outside there now. So yeah, it's great. It's great. And a lot of people, not only from Jude's, go up there, but people from all over Dublin are popping up now for coffees, and we do lunches and sandwiches and everything. So no, it's going really, really well.
Brilliant stuff, Brian. Last few questions. You've been brilliant with your time. 3, 4, 5 players you're paying into Croke Park to see these days. Who are they?
We'll have to go David Clifford anyway. I'd watch him any day of the week. Unbelievable footballer. Just for the tall man, just the little low centre of gravity solo. I don't know how he does it. Absolutely phenomenal. Really, really good. His brother's not bad either. Really good. I love watching the two Spallans. I think they're great footballers as well. Dublin lads, in fairness, there's going to be a few lads coming out of the pack this year in Dublin. Obviously, the people that you know about, Paul Mannion, as far as I'm concerned, is probably, second or third best player in the country, up with the likes of Paul Clifford. Shane Walsh, Galway, you only have to see what he's doing in the club championships. Wasn't sure how I felt at the start about him going to Crokes, but listen, a credit to him. He's done everything he's asked of him, and he's a bit of criticism from people in Galway. My own mother's from down in Galway as well, and I know some of the people down in Galway aren't over the moon about him going. But listen, he's not travelling up and down 3 or 4 days a week to play a club game, and all credit to him. And he's going to be, a different animal again this year from Galway after playing with Crokes for a year. You learn a lot down there. The lads are really good and very professional, and I'm sure he'll add what he's adding, week in, week out at the minute. I think you're going to see them in the business end of the championship this year. We have a lad in Jude's, Tom Lahiff, as well. The other guy he seems to be sort of putting down his marker now. He's, 1 or 2 years, took him a while to get in, but I mean, I think he's a big 5 or 6 years for Dublin. Good partnership with Fenton. If McCarthy goes this year, you could see Fenton and Lahiff in midfield for the next few years,
Good stuff. I suppose nice easy one for you here now. There could be a few ones given out with this, but the best player you played with and the toughest player you played against.
The best player I played with, probably maybe Dermot Conley or Alan Brogue. Maybe Dermot Conley, for just some of the stuff that he used to do. Just little moments of magic. And then the best player I played against. I remember Paul Griffin years ago for Kilmacud. Crokes was really good, really hard player to mark. Again, Kevin Nolan, really good. Both Crokes players actually, but very hard to mark in training, very sticky. Chris Guckian in their own club thought that he's been one of the best players that I've ever probably played with and against in training. Got 1 or 2 run out with Dublin over the years. Thought he probably should have been on the Dublin panel for a good few years. A lot of lads in club championships would know about him, but and listen, Kev is up there as well for what he did at even a club level, So I'll go Dermot Conley, Alan Brogan, and then Kev, and I'll throw Chris Cook in then as one of the best backs along with Paul Griffin.
Great stuff. So, his last question, Bren. There's a young Bren McManamon. I'm not saying of course you're still very young. Of course you're still a young man, but a young man kind of trying to make the breakthrough onto like a county panel or club, or just to kind of get to that next level. What advice would you give them?
Yeah, listen, just to keep practicing the skills. Keep listening to the coaches, and like the day does land eventually. If you're knocking on the door, you'll get spotted. It's not like years ago where if you were playing with a club that wasn't known, you wouldn't get spotted. These days, everyone's getting some sort of a fair crack at it. And if you keep knocking on the door, be there for the big games, be there for the championship matches, quarter-final, semi-final, hold your hand up, get the gym work done, get the recovery done, keep yourself in good shape. And yeah, listen, practice both feet. I never really did enough with my left foot growing up, and it definitely hindered me a little bit. I think I would have done more in my career if I had a better left foot, or a left foot. But yeah, so.
Great stuff. Brendan McManamon, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by YorgoRich.com. Use the code JMac podcast to get 15% off on their website. Brendan, Happy New Year, and thanks a million for joining me.
No problem. Thanks a million, John. Appreciate it.
Cheers, Brent.